I found the phone in my wife's gym bag while looking for my wireless earbuds. Not her regular iPhone with the rose gold case and our kids' faces on the lock screen. This was a cheap Android, the kind you buy at a gas station with cash. The kind you use when you don't want anyone to know who you're talking to. My hands shook as I powered it on. No password. That should have been my first clue that Emily wanted me to find it. My wife, who put face recognition on everything from her laptop to our home security system, had left this thing wide open. The messages loaded slowly, and I stood there in our bedroom, the one we'd picked out furniture for together at that overpriced place in downtown Portland, watching my marriage dissolve into pixels and text bubbles. Can't wait to feel you again. Tuesday at the usual place? Thinking about what you did to me last time. I'm wet, just remembering. My husband's taking the kids to his mom's this weekend. We'll have the whole day. That last one was from 3 days ago. Saturday. When I'd driven our 7-year-old daughter Olivia and 5-year-old son Nathan to my mother's house in Eugene because Emily said she needed alone time to decompress. I'd kissed her goodbye, told her to enjoy her spa day and book club, and driven 2 hours south with Frozen playing for the 100th time while my wife was apparently planning an all-day session with whoever the hell D was in her contacts. I scrolled up. The messages went back 4 months. 4 months. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped steel cables around my ribs and was cranking them tighter with every breath. I sat down on the edge of our bed. Her side, where she slept every night next to me, where we'd made love just last week, where she'd whispered, "I love you," before falling asleep in my arms. The bathroom door opened. Emily walked out in her towel, hair wet from the shower, and stopped when she saw me sitting there with the phone in my hand. For a second, maybe half a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Not guilt, not shame, something worse. Relief. "Jake," she said quietly. "Just my name. Nothing else." "Who's D?" My voice sounded strange. Hollow. Like it was coming from someone else's throat. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to her dresser and started pulling out clothes. Jeans, a sweater. Taking her time like we were discussing what to have for dinner instead of the fact that I was holding evidence of her affair. "Emily," I stood up. "Who is D? Does it matter?" She pulled the sweater over her head, still not looking at me. "You were going to find out eventually." That punched the air out of my lungs. I was going to... You wanted me to find this? I left it there, didn't I? Now she turned to face me, and her expression was so calm it made my skin crawl. This wasn't the woman I'd married 9 years ago. This wasn't the person who'd cried happy tears when I proposed at Cannon Beach, who'd held my hand through 2 difficult pregnancies, who'd built a life with me. "Why?" The word came out broken. Emily sighed like I was being tedious. "Because I'm done, Jake. I'm done pretending. I'm done with this life, this house, this... everything. We have children," my voice cracked. "We have a family, a mortgage. We just booked that trip to Disney World for Christmas." "I don't want to go to Disney World." The sudden fury in her voice made me step back. "I don't want to spend my days packing lunches and doing laundry and pretending I'm happy living in suburban hell with a man who thinks a wild Friday night is watching Netflix and falling asleep by 9:30. The phone felt heavy in my hand. "How long?" "I told you, 4 months." "No." "How long have you wanted out?" She looked away. 2 years. Maybe longer. 2 years. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks at the architecture firm to make partner, to give us a better life, to save for the kids' college funds, while I'd been coaching Nathan's t-ball team and helping Olivia with her homework and trying to be a good husband, a good father, a good man. "Who is he?" I asked again. Devin Walsh. He teaches at my yoga studio." She said it so casually, like she was introducing me to someone at a party. He's 32. He's an artist. He makes me feel alive again, Jake. He makes me feel like a woman instead of just someone's wife and someone's mother. 32. Emily was 34. I was 36. Apparently, that made me ancient. What happens now? I asked, though I already knew. I could see it in her eyes, in the way she was already mentally checked out of this room, this conversation, this life we'd built together. I'm leaving. I've already talked to a lawyer. I want the house sold and the assets split. I'll take primary custody of the kids. Like hell you will. The words came out harder than I'd ever spoken to her before. You don't get to blow up our family for some yoga instructor and take my children. Her eyes narrowed. I'm their mother. And I'm their father. The one who's actually been here, present, not sneaking around having an affair. You think any judge will care about that? I'm the primary caregiver, Jake. I'm the one who's been raising them while you're at work all day. The casual cruelty of it staggered me. She'd already thought this through, already planned it, already consulted a lawyer while I'd been completely oblivious. I looked down at the burner phone still in my hand. You should have password protected this, I said quietly. Something flickered in her expression. What? If you didn't want me to have all these messages, all this evidence. I met her eyes. You should have been more careful. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old books. I sat across from Gregory Palmer, a divorce attorney my buddy from college had recommended. The burner phone sat on the polished mahogany desk between us. I need to know where I stand, I said. She wants primary custody. Palmer was in his 50s, gray at the temples, with the kind of steady gaze that probably cost $300 an hour. He picked up the phone, scrolled through a few messages, then set it down. Oregon's a no-fault state, so the affair won't matter much for the divorce itself. But for custody? He leaned back. This helps, especially if you can document a pattern of absence and deception. Do you have anything else? I'm working on it. That was 3 days ago. Now I was in an Uber heading downtown, watching the driver's phone mounted on the dashboard. The app showed my route, the estimated fare, the driver's rating, standard stuff. But I'd been thinking about Emily's movements, her patterns. 4 months of Saturdays when I'd taken the kids to my mother's, to the zoo, to soccer practice. 4 months of me time while I handled everything. The driver, a guy in his 40s with a Cubs cap, glanced at me in the rearview mirror. You from Chicago originally? He asked. I blinked. What? Sorry, man. You just look familiar. Thought maybe I'd given you a ride before. We were in Portland, not Chicago. I'd told him my destination was a condo building in the Pearl District. The same building Emily had mentioned when I'd pushed her for details. Where Devin Walsh apparently lived in a loft with exposed brick and these huge windows. Never been to Chicago, I said. My bad. I used to drive there before I moved out here. You'd be surprised how many regulars you get. Same people, same routes, week after week. He merged onto Burnside. Had this one couple I picked up every Saturday for months. Same pickup, same drop-off. Started recognizing them, you know? Something cold settled in my chest. Yeah? Oh, yeah. I remember one time, and this is going to sound weird, but the wife, she was always super chatty, tipped great too, used to tell me about her morning, her plans. Meanwhile, the husband's probably at home thinking she's at yoga or whatever. He laughed. I didn't. You pick up a lot of people going to the same places? I asked carefully. All the time. The app keeps the history, so sometimes I'll see it when I'm checking my earnings. Like, oh, there's that address again. Usually it's people going to work, the airport, stuff like that. But sometimes, he trailed off, shaking his head. My phone was in my hand before I'd fully formed the thought. Hey, can I ask you something? Hypothetically. Sure, man. If someone wanted to check their spouse's Uber history, could they do that? Like, If they shared an account? He glanced back again, and I saw understanding dawn in his eyes. The kind of understanding that said he'd seen this before. If they're on the same family account, yeah. Everything shows up. Every ride, every destination, every tip. He paused. That's hypothetically speaking, of course. Of course. We pulled up to the building. I paid, added a generous tip, and stood on the sidewalk staring up at the converted warehouse. Exposed brick, huge windows. Third floor, Emily had said. I opened my phone. Emily and I had set up a family account 2 years ago to save money. I'd never bothered to check it because why would I? We trusted each other. We'd trusted each other. I pulled up the app, navigated to the account settings, found the ride history. And there it was. Every trip, time-stamped and mapped. I scrolled back, watching the pattern emerge like a photograph developing in chemicals. 4 months of Saturdays. Pickup from our house in the suburbs. Drop off at this address. Then, hours later, pickup from this address. Drop off at home. Like clockwork. But it was the tips that made my hands shake. $20, $25, $30. Always generous. And on a few rides there were notes. Couple tips, one driver had written. Great conversation as always, said another. Couple tips. I stood there on the sidewalk, people walking past me, traffic humming on the street, and felt something crack open in my chest. Not grief this time, something sharper. She'd been so careful with the burner phone, keeping it hidden, using it only for Devon. But she'd been careless with this. Probably never thought I'd check. Probably never thought I'd have reason to. I took screenshots. Every ride, every destination, every generous tip that came from our joint checking account while I was coaching Nathan's t-ball or helping Olivia with her homework. Then I went home. Emily was in the kitchen when I got there, making coffee. She looked up when I walked in, and something in my expression made her freeze. What? I set my laptop on the counter, opened it, and pulled up the Uber account on the big screen. Then I connected my phone and started mirroring the display. What are you doing? Her voice had an edge now. I didn't answer. Just started playing the route history on the TV in the living room. The one we'd bought together 3 years ago. The one we'd used for family movie nights. The screen showed our house. Then a line extending to the Pearl District. Then back. Again and again. Jake? Couple tips, I said quietly. That's what one of the drivers called them, couple tips. She set down her coffee mug. You're going through my ride history? Our ride history. Family account, remember? We set it up to save money. I pulled up the bank statements I'd already downloaded. Speaking of money, did you know you spent almost $800 on Uber rides in the last 4 months? All to the same address. All on Saturdays. Her jaw tightened. I'm not doing this with you. No, you're done doing this with me, but I'm not done documenting it. I scrolled through the rides, letting each one sit on the screen. You tipped well. Really well. Our money, going to drivers who took you to screw your boyfriend while I was being a parent. You're being ridiculous. Am I? I turned to face her fully. Because I'm starting to think you wanted me to find out. The burner phone was too obvious. You're not stupid, Emily. You knew I'd find it eventually. She didn't deny it. But this? I gestured to the screen. This you didn't think about. All these rides, all this evidence just sitting there in the cloud, waiting. So what? She crossed her arms. You're going to what? Show this to a lawyer? Oregon's no fault. This doesn't matter. For custody, it does. Pattern of deception. Pattern of absence. Pattern of using family resources to facilitate an affair while your husband handled all the parenting. Something flickered in her eyes. Not quite fear, but close. You think you're so smart, she said. You think you've got this all figured out. I think I've got enough. She stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her purse from the counter. I'm going out. Where? Devin's place? Want me to call you an Uber? Screw you, Jake. She headed for the door, and I let her go. I had work to do. It took me 2 hours to figure out how to do it. The Uber app had a feature where you could schedule rides in advance. And if you had someone's account access, say, because you shared a family account, you could schedule rides from their profile. I started small. One ride from our house to Devin's building, scheduled for 2 a.m., then another at 3 a.m., then 4 a.m. Then I started adding surge pricing times, Friday nights, Saturday mornings, rush hour. The app let me schedule up to 30 days in advance. I scheduled 40 rides, all from Emily's profile, all to Devin's address, all during peak surge pricing. Then I changed the password on the family account. My phone buzzed an hour later. Emily. What the hell did you do to the Uber account? I didn't respond. She called. I didn't answer. Another text. I can't cancel these rides. It says the account is locked. I poured myself a drink and watched the TV screen, where the scheduled rides were now showing up in a neat list. Each one with its estimated surge price. Each one ticking like a meter, tallying up what this was going to cost her. Then I grabbed my keys and drove to Devin's building. The Pearl District address glowed on my phone's GPS. 23 minutes away in Saturday afternoon traffic. I'd made this drive exactly once before, to drop Emily at what she'd called a wellness retreat last month. The pieces kept clicking into place, each one making me feel more like an idiot. Devin's building was one of those converted warehouses with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of place that screamed creative professional and cost twice what our mortgage did. I parked across the street, engine idling, staring at the entrance. What was I doing here? My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Where are you? We need to talk about this. I turned the phone face down. A black Nissan Altima pulled up to the building's passenger loading zone. Uber sticker in the window. I watched a tall guy in athletic wear climb out from the back seat, yoga mat slung over his shoulder. Dark hair, that carefully maintained stubble that took more effort than a clean shave. He moved with the kind of easy confidence that came from never having to work 60-hour weeks. Devin Walsh. Had to be. He disappeared into the building. The Uber driver pulled away from the curb. I was out of my car before I'd thought it through, crossing the street, catching the building's door before it latched. The lobby had polished concrete floors and abstract art that probably cost more than my kid's college fund. A directory listed Walsh, D in Unit 412. The elevator had mirrors on 3 sides. I looked like hell. 2 days of stubble, yesterday's shirt, eyes that hadn't seen real sleep since I'd found that burner phone. The man staring back at me wasn't someone I recognized. 4th floor. The hallway smelled like expensive coffee and fresh paint. Unit 412 was at the end, a heavy door with a brushed steel number plate. I knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. Devin Walsh was taller than me by a couple inches, broader in the shoulders. He had that yoga instructor glow, the kind of skin that suggested green smoothies and regular meditation. His smile was friendly, open, completely unsuspecting. Can I help you? You Devin Walsh? Yeah. His smile dimmed slightly, wariness creeping in. Do I know you? Not yet. I'm Jake Harper, Emily's husband. The color drained from his face. He stepped back, hand still on the door like he might slam it. Listen, man, Relax. I kept my voice level, my hands visible. I'm not here to punch you, just want to talk. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't close the door either. Up close, I could see the appeal. This was the guy Emily had been sneaking off to see every Saturday. The guy she'd been texting on that burner phone. The guy whose bed she'd been in instead of at book club or the spa or wherever else she'd lied about. She told you, he said. Eventually, after I found the phone. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. What phone? The burner, in her gym bag. 4 months of messages. He blinked. We don't use burner phones. Now it was my turn to be confused. The hell you talking about? I read the texts. Can't wait to have you again. Saturday was incredible. All of it. Devin shook his head slowly. We text on regular phones. I mean, we're not exactly hiding it. He paused. Well, we weren't hiding it from each other. The floor tilted under me. What do you mean regular phones? I mean, I've been texting Emily on her iPhone for months. She said you two were separated, that you knew about me. The laugh that came out of me sounded wrong, harsh. Separated. Right. Is that what she told you? She said you'd moved out, that you were just figuring out the custody arrangement. Devin's face had gone pale. She said you were seeing someone too. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo app, found the picture from last weekend. Me and the kids at my mom's place, all three of us grinning at the camera. Nathan had ice cream on his face. Olivia was missing a tooth. Does this look like we're separated? Devin stared at the screen. His jaw worked like he was trying to swallow something sharp. She's been lying to both of us, I said. I found out Tuesday. Found a cheap phone in her gym bag with texts to someone called D. Thought that was you. I'm saved in her phone as Devin, with a picture. He ran a hand through his hair. Jesus, who else is there? The question hung between us. I thought about those Uber rides. Every Saturday for 4 months, generous tips, couple rides. The driver had said couple rides specifically, like he'd seen her with someone multiple times. I don't know, I said, but I'm going to find out. Devin stepped back into his apartment, leaving the door open. An invitation. The place was exactly what I'd expected. Exposed brick, minimalist furniture, one of those expensive espresso machines on the counter. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Portland's skyline stretched out like a postcard. He grabbed his phone from the kitchen counter, started scrolling. Here, this is from 3 weeks ago. He turned the screen towards me. A text conversation with Emily. Her profile picture showed her laughing, wind in her hair. A photo I'd taken at Cannon Beach 2 summers ago. Emily. Can't do Saturday. Jake's taking the kids to his mom's, so I finally have the whole day. Devin. Perfect. Come early. I'll make breakfast. Emily. I'm already wet thinking about it. My stomach turned. That Saturday. The Saturday I'd driven Olivia and Nathan to Eugene so Emily could have alone time to decompress. Keep going, I said. Devin scrolled. Message after message going back months. Explicit photos I definitely didn't want to see. Plans made and kept. Emily describing our marriage as basically over, me as emotionally checked out, our home as a prison. She said you didn't touch her anymore, Devin said quietly. That you'd rather work than spend time with her. I work 60-hour weeks so we can pay our mortgage and save for the kids' college. She wanted the house in the suburbs, the private school district, the whole package. She told me you wanted all that she felt trapped by it. We stared at each other, 2 men who'd been played by the same woman. Different lies, same result. There's someone else, I said. The burner phone, that's not you. Devin sat down heavily on his couch. How long? Messages go back 4 months, same as you. So she's been with both of us this whole time. I thought about the Uber rides, the tips, the driver's knowing smile. At least 2, maybe more. My phone buzzed again. Emily. Jake, this is childish. Come home so we can discuss this like adults. I showed Devin the message. He laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "Document everything. My lawyer says the affair could help with custody even though Oregon's no fault." I paused. "What about you?" "I'm done, obviously." He looked at his phone like it had betrayed him. I actually thought, God, I'm an idiot. I thought we had something real. Yeah, well, I thought I had a marriage. We sat in silence for a moment. Through the windows, the city hummed with Saturday afternoon life. People living their normal lives while mine disintegrated. "The Uber account," I said. "It's our joint family account. She's been using it to come here, tipping generously with our money." Devon's expression darkened. "Every Saturday?" "Every Saturday." The driver recognized the route. Said she always tipped well for couple rides. "Couple rides," Devon repeated. "So the driver saw her with someone." "That's what I'm thinking." He stood up, paced to the window. "There's a coffee shop across the street. Lucia's. She always wanted to stop there first. Said she needed caffeine before." He trailed off. "Before coming up to your place, I finished silently. But if she was stopping for coffee first, and the driver mentioned seeing her with someone, what time did she usually get here?" I asked. "Around 10. We'd have breakfast, spend the day together. She'd leave around 4. But the Uber records showed her getting picked up from our house at 9, an hour to get to the Pearl District. If she wasn't coming straight here..." My phone was already open, pulling up the Uber history again. I'd been so focused on the destination that I hadn't looked at the pickup times and locations carefully enough. There. 3 weeks ago. Picked up from our house at 9 a.m. But the ride to Devon's building wasn't until 10:47 a.m. Different pickup location, an address I didn't recognize. I clicked on the address. Google Maps opened. A high-rise apartment building in the South Waterfront District. "She's got another stop," I said. Devon looked over my shoulder at the screen. His face went white. "What?" "That building. My best friend Danny lives there. He teaches at the yoga studio, too." The Uber driver's name was Gerald, and he had a 5-star rating across 4,200 rides. I knew this because I'd requested him specifically through the app's favorite driver feature, a function I'd discovered while digging through Emily's ride history. Gerald had driven her to Devon's apartment building 17 times over the past 4 months. Every single Saturday morning. Every single trip had a generous tip attached. He picked me up outside a coffee shop 3 blocks from our house on Tuesday afternoon. I'd told Emily I had a site inspection in Northwest Portland. Not a lie, technically. I did have an inspection scheduled. Just not for another 2 hours. Gerald's silver Prius pulled to the curb at exactly 2:14 p.m. He was maybe 60, with reading glasses hanging from a chain around his neck, and a thermos of coffee in the center console. NPR played softly through the speakers. "Jake?" he asked as I slid into the back seat. "That's me. Thanks for picking me up." He nodded, pulling into traffic. "You got it. Where we headed?" I gave him an address in the Pearl District. Nowhere near Devon's place, nowhere near Emily's actual destinations. Just a random building I'd picked from Google Maps. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Gerald was a careful driver, signaling every lane change, leaving plenty of space between cars. The kind of driver who'd accumulated 4,200 rides without incident. "You drive a lot in this area?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. "All over Portland, really, wherever the app sends me." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You need a regular driver?" "I do some private arrangements if the schedule works." "Actually, I was hoping to ask you about someone who might already be a regular." His eyes met mine in the mirror. Something shifted in his expression. "My wife," I continued. "Emily Harper. You've driven her quite a few times." The Prius slowed slightly. Gerald's hands tightened on the wheel. "I drive a lot of people," he said carefully. I pulled out my phone, opened the Uber account, and leaned forward to show him the screen. 17 times. All on Saturday mornings. All to the same building on SW Montgomery. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. Look, man, I just drive where the app tells me. I don't get involved in... I'm not angry at you, I said. I just need to know what you saw. Gerald pulled over to the curb, put the car in park, and turned to face me. His expression was tired, sympathetic in a way that made my chest tighten. You sure you want to know? I already know she was cheating. I already know where she was going. I just need details. Things she might have said. Things you noticed. He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. She was always in a good mood. Chatty, you know? Some passengers don't say a word the whole ride. She talked. About what? First few times, just small talk. Weather, weekend plans, that kind of thing, but then... He trailed off, adjusting his glasses. She started asking me about my marriage. How long I'd been with my wife. What kept us together. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I told her 32 years, Gerald continued. Told her it wasn't always easy, but we worked at it. You know what she said? I shook my head. She said some marriages aren't worth working at. Said sometimes people just grow apart and staying together is worse than leaving. The cold spread through my chest. When was this? Maybe the 5th or 6th ride? February, I think. 4 months ago. Right when the burner phone messages started. Did she ever mention me? I asked. Her husband? Gerald's expression shifted, pity mixed with discomfort. Once? She said you were a good provider, a good father. But that sometimes that wasn't enough. I stared out the window at the passing traffic. A good provider. A good father. Like I was a utility. A function she'd outgrown. The last few times, Gerald said quietly, she stopped talking much. Just looked at her phone the whole ride, texting. Smiling at the screen. Did you ever see who she was texting? I mind my own business, but... He hesitated. One time she took a call. Put it on speaker for just a second before she realized. A man's voice. He called her babe. Asked if she was close. Did you recognize the voice? No, but he sounded young. Younger than you, I'd guess. Devin. Had to be. What about when you picked her up? I asked. After the visits, did she look different? Gerald shifted uncomfortably. That's getting pretty personal. Please. He sighed again. She looked happy, relaxed, like she'd just come from a spa or something. He paused, and her hair was usually wet, like she'd just showered. The image hit me like a physical blow. Emily showering at Devin's apartment, washing away the evidence before coming home to our children, to our bed. The tips, I said, my voice harder now. They were generous. $20, $25 for a 15-minute ride. Look, I appreciated them, but I didn't ask. She was paying you to be discreet. Gerald's silence was answer enough. Did she ever say anything explicit about what she was doing? Where she was going? No, but she didn't have to. He met my eyes in the mirror again. I've been driving for Uber for 5 years. You learn to read situations. Saturday morning rides to the same apartment building. Generous tips. Wet hair on the return trip. He shook his head. I'm sorry, man. I really am. Did you ever pick her up with someone else? A man? His expression shifted. Twice. Maybe 3 times. My pulse quickened. When? More recent. Last month, maybe 6 weeks ago. Different building, though. Not the Montgomery Street place. The South Waterfront apartment. Danny's building. What did he look like? Tall, fit, dark hair, kind of long. Had that yoga instructor look, you know? All spiritual and relaxed. Did they seem close? They were holding hands in the back seat. She was leaning against him. I closed my eyes, tried to breathe through the rage building in my chest. Where did you take them? Brunch place in Hawthorne, Tasty and Alder, I think. They were laughing the whole ride. She kept touching his arm, his leg. Gerald's voice was gentle now, apologetic. I'm sorry. You didn't need to hear that. But I did. I needed every detail, every piece of evidence, every moment of her betrayal documented and cataloged. The app history, I said, opening the Uber account again. It shows the routes, the times, the payments. But it doesn't show everything, does it? Gerald shook his head. Just the basics. Pickup, drop-off, fare, tip. But you keep your own records, for taxes, right? He hesitated. Yeah, mileage logs, passenger notes, that kind of thing. Notes about passengers? Sometimes, if something notable happens. Or if there's a regular I want to remember details about. Do you have notes about Emily? The pause stretched long enough that I knew the answer before he spoke. I might. I need copies. Everything you have. Dates, times, observations. Anything that might be useful. Useful for what? Divorce proceedings, custody battle, whatever comes next. Gerald turned back to face the windshield, his hands resting on the steering wheel. I don't want to get involved in legal stuff. I just drive people. You're already involved. You've been involved for 4 months. I pulled out my wallet, extracted $500 bills. This isn't hush money. It's compensation for your time and records. Everything documented, dated, signed if you're willing. He stared at the money. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. You've given me information worth a lot more than $500. He took the bills slowly, folding them into his shirt pocket. I'll email you what I have, but I'm not testifying in court or anything like that. I won't ask you to, just the records. He nodded, then put the car back in gear. We drove the rest of the way to the Pearl District in silence. When he pulled up to the random address I'd given him, I didn't get out right away. Gerald? Yeah? Thank you for being honest. He met my eyes in the mirror one last time. For what it's worth, I've driven a lot of people doing a lot of shady things. Your wife? She never seemed guilty. Never seemed conflicted. That's what I remember most. She seemed happy about it. I nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in my throat. Good luck, he said quietly. You're going to need it. I climbed out of the Prius and watched him drive away. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the Uber app one more time. Emily had a ride scheduled for Saturday morning. Pickup at 9:47 a.m. Destination, SW Montgomery Street. Devon's building. I smiled. Not for long. Gerald handed me back my phone after I'd transferred him the cash through Venmo. You want my advice? He asked, settling back into the driver's seat of his Camry. Document everything. Screenshot every ride. The app keeps records, but only for so long. Already on it, I said. He nodded slowly, then reached for something in his center console. Here's the thing about rideshare apps. They track more than people realize. Every stop, every route deviation, every time someone changes the destination mid-ride, it's all there in the driver's trip history. I watched him pull out his phone, swiping through screens with practiced efficiency. See, when I pick up a regular customer, the app remembers patterns. It'll suggest destinations based on previous rides. He turned the screen toward me. Your wife's profile? It auto-suggests 3 addresses. Your home address, Devon Walsh's building on Burnside, and this one. He pointed to a 3rd address I didn't recognize. Northwest 23rd Avenue. That's not Danny's place, I said, my stomach tightening. No, that's where I dropped her twice, both times after picking her up from Devon's building. Gerald zoomed in on the trip details. First time was March 14th. Second was April 2nd. Both Saturdays, both in the afternoon. I stared at the address, my mind racing through possibilities. How long did she stay there? Couldn't tell you. I just dropped her off. He scrolled through more trip data. But here's what's interesting. On April 2nd, she requested a pickup from that same address 3 hours later. Went straight home. 3 hours. On a Saturday afternoon while I had the kids at my mother's house, believing Emily needed time to decompress from her stressful week. Can you send me screenshots of all this? I asked. Already ahead of you. His phone chimed as he sent the images. One more thing you should know. That account you're both on? The primary account holder can see everything. Every ride, every route, every tip. If you're the primary, I am, then you've got access to the full trip history. Not just destinations, but routes taken, wait times, everything. He gave me a meaningful look. Might want to check what she's been doing on your dime. I thanked him again and headed back to my car, my mind already working through the implications. Once inside, I pulled up the Uber app and navigated to the account settings. Gerald was right. As the primary account holder, I had access to every trip Emily had taken. 47 rides in the past 4 months. I started scrolling through them, noting patterns. Most Saturdays showed the same route. Home to Devon's building, then, later that day, Devon's building back home. But there were weekday trips too. Thursday afternoons, always to the same yoga studio where Devon taught. Those made sense. She'd told me she had a standing Thursday class. Except the trip durations didn't match a yoga class. The app showed wait times of 2 to 3 hours between drop-off and pickup. No yoga class lasted that long. Then I found the trips to Northwest 23rd. Gerald had only known about 2, but the app showed 5 total visits to that address. I opened a new browser tab and searched the address. A boutique apartment building. Luxury studios and 1-bedrooms, the kind of place young professionals rented when they wanted to live in a trendy neighborhood. The building's website advertised modern amenities and flexible short-term leases. I cross-referenced the dates of Emily's visits with my calendar. Every single one fell on a day when I'd had the kids out of the house. Twice when I'd taken them to my mother's. Once when I'd taken them to the zoo. Twice when they'd had playdates that I'd supervised while Emily claimed she had errands to run. My phone buzzed. A text from my attorney, Melissa Grant. Got your voicemail. Free tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you want to discuss new evidence. Bring everything. I confirmed the appointment, then returned to the Uber app. There was a feature I'd never noticed before, a detailed breakdown of tips given to drivers. Emily had been generous, 20% on most rides, sometimes more. One trip to Devon's place in March showed a $30 tip on a $15 fare. The note attached to that tip made my blood run cold. Thanks for the discretion. I took screenshots of everything. Every trip, every route, every tip, every note. Then I did something I'd been considering since my conversation with Gerald. I opened the account settings and changed the primary account holder designation. The app required Emily's password to complete the change, but I'd watched her unlock her phone enough times to know it. Olivia's birthday followed by Nathan's. 6 digits that unlocked everything. The app accepted the password. I switched the primary account to a new profile I created using my work email, then removed Emily's payment method and replaced it with a prepaid card I'd bought specifically for this purpose. A card with exactly $50 loaded onto it. Then I started requesting rides. The first one I scheduled for pickup at our house. Destination: Devon's building on Burnside. Requested for 6 a.m. the next morning, when Emily would definitely be home and definitely not expecting a car. The second, Devon's building to the Northwest 23rd address. Scheduled for 6:15 a.m. I kept going, creating a loop. Northwest 23rd to Danny's building. Danny's building back to Devon's. Devon's to our house. Our house to the yoga studio. Each ride scheduled 15 minutes apart, each one using Emily's rider profile but my prepaid card. 40 rides total, enough to drain the $50 card and then start getting declined. But that wasn't the revenge. That was just the setup. The real revenge required me to be there in person. I woke up at 5:30 the next morning and dressed quietly. Emily was still asleep, her phone charging on her nightstand. I'd heard her come home around midnight, long after I'd pretended to be asleep. She'd showered before getting into bed, a routine I now understood had nothing to do with hygiene and everything to do with washing away evidence. By 5:50, I was parked down the street from our house with a clear view of the driveway. My phone showed the first Uber driver approaching, a Toyota Prius, 3 minutes away. At 5:58, the Prius pulled up to our curb. The driver waited, checking his phone. 30 seconds passed. A minute. Then my phone buzzed with a notification. Your rider is not responding. Canceling trip. Cancellation fee, $5.67. 2 minutes later, the second driver arrived. Same scenario. Another cancellation fee. By the time Emily's bedroom light turned on at 6:20, 6 drivers had come and gone, each one charging a cancellation fee. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, each one deducting from the prepaid card. I watched Emily appear at the front door in her bathrobe, confused and angry, as the 7th driver pulled up. She walked to the car, clearly explaining she hadn't requested a ride. The driver showed her his phone, her profile, her name, her photo. She shook her head, gesturing emphatically. The driver left. Another cancellation fee. Emily stood in the driveway staring at her phone. I could see her swiping, tapping, probably trying to figure out what was happening. Then she went back inside. 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from her. Are you messing with my Uber account? I didn't respond. I just watched as the 8th driver arrived. This time, Emily didn't come outside. The driver waited the full 5 minutes, then canceled. Another fee. My prepaid card balance was down to $12. The next few rides would get declined, but not before the drivers showed up expecting a passenger. Not before they marked her profile with cancellations and no-shows. Enough of those, and the app would flag her account for review, possibly suspend it. I waited until the 10th driver arrived and left before I drove away. I had a 10 a.m. meeting with Melissa, and I wanted to grab coffee first. Strong coffee. The kind of morning I was having required it. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. I know you're doing this. Stop. Then another. I can't get into the account. What did you do? And finally, we need to talk. This is childish. I deleted the texts without responding and pulled into a Starbucks parking lot. Inside, I ordered a large dark roast and found a quiet corner booth. I had 30 minutes before my meeting, and I wanted to review everything one more time. The burner phone messages, the Uber trip history, Gerald's testimony, Devin's confession about Emily lying to him, the unexplained trips to Northwest 23rd Avenue, the Thursday afternoon yoga classes that lasted 3 hours, and now this morning's little experiment in consequences. My phone rang. Emily, I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. I declined the call. A text appeared. Answer your phone. Now. I took a sip of coffee and opened my email instead. Melissa had sent over a draft of the custody filing, flagged for my review. I skimmed through it, noting the sections where she'd incorporated the evidence I'd provided. It was thorough, clinical, devastating. My phone rang a third time. I powered it off completely. The phone stopped ringing around 4 in the morning. I lay in the guest room bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence. My own phone sat on the nightstand. 37 missed calls from Emily glowing on the lock screen. I didn't sleep. At 6:30, I showered, dressed, and made coffee. The house felt different in the early light. like a museum of a life that had already ended. Photos on the walls showed a family that didn't exist anymore. The coffee maker Emily had insisted we buy because it had a timer. The couch where we'd watched 1,000 movies. All of it contaminated. I was on my second cup when I heard her door open upstairs. Footsteps in the hallway. The bathroom. Water running. The familiar sounds of her morning routine, except nothing was familiar anymore. She came down 20 minutes later, dressed for work in gray slacks and a white blouse. Her face was pale, eyes red-rimmed. She stopped when she saw me at the kitchen table. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't." "Jake, what you did last night? Cost you money?" I took a sip of coffee. "How much?" Her jaw tightened. $340 in cancellation fees, and my account is suspended. Huh. I set down the mug. That's less than I thought. You can't just... I can't? I looked at her. Really looked at her. You spent 4 months screwing around with God knows how many people. You lied to me, to them, to everyone, but I can't cancel some Uber rides? That's not the same thing. You're right, I stood. It's not even close. She crossed her arms. I need access to the account. I need to get to work. Take your car. My car's in the shop. You know that. I did know that. Her Lexus had been making a noise. She dropped it off Friday. The loaner wasn't ready yet. Sounds like a personal problem, I said. Her eyes flashed. This is childish. Childish would be slashing your tires. Childish would be calling your boss and telling him why you're really late all those afternoons. I picked up my phone. Want me to be childish, Emily? She stared at me. Something shifted in her expression. A calculation. A reassessment. Fine, she said. I'll figure it out. She pulled out her phone, tapped at the screen. Frowned. Tapped again. What did you do? Her voice had gone quiet. Dangerous. I removed your payment method, changed the password, removed you as an authorized user. I drained the coffee. Like I said, you'll figure it out. You son of a... Careful. I set the mug in the sink. The kids are still asleep. She looked at her phone again, then at me. How am I supposed to get anywhere? I don't know. Call Devin. Call Danny. Call whoever lives on NW 23rd. I grabbed my keys from the counter. Or you could try that burner phone, though I'm guessing that person doesn't know about the others either. Her face went white. Yeah, I said. I've been doing math. Devin thinks you're separated. The Uber records show you visiting multiple locations, multiple men. I moved toward the door. How many, Emily? How many people have you been lying to? It's complicated. It's really not. I opened the door. I'm taking the kids to school. I'll be back to pack some of their things. We're staying somewhere else for a while. You can't take them. Watch me. I'll call the police. I turned back. And tell them what? That your husband is taking his kids to school and then to stay with their grandmother? Good luck with that. She took a step forward. Jake, please, we can work this out. No, we can't. For the kids, don't. The word came out harder than I intended. Don't you dare use them. You didn't think about them when you were spreading your legs for half of Portland. She flinched. Good. My lawyer will be in touch, I said. Don't contact me except through her. I left before she could respond. The kids were confused but excited about an unexpected trip to Grandma's. I packed their bags while Emily locked herself in the bedroom. Olivia wanted to bring her entire collection of stuffed animals. Nathan needed his specific blanket, the blue one with rockets. Normal things. Kid things. Emily didn't come out to say goodbye. I loaded the car, buckled them in, and pulled out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, I saw the curtain in our bedroom window move. She was watching. Let her watch. The drive to Eugene took 2 hours. The kids played games on their tablets, asked for snacks, complained that Nathan was touching Olivia's side of the seat. Regular sibling stuff. They had no idea their world was ending. My mother met us at the door, took one look at my face, and hugged me without asking questions. The kids ran inside to the toy box she kept for visits. "How long?" she asked quietly. "I don't know. A week, maybe more." I set the bags down. "I need to find a place, something temporary until the divorce is final." She nodded. "Whatever you need." We got the kids settled with lunch and cartoons. Then I sat at her kitchen table and told her everything. The burner phone, the Uber records, Gerald's testimony, the multiple men. All of it. She listened without interrupting, her face getting harder with each detail. "That woman," she said when I finished. She never called Emily by name when she was angry. "Those babies upstairs and she..." She stopped, shook her head. "What do you need?" "Time, a clear head." I rubbed my eyes. "And maybe a favor." "Anything." "Can you keep them for a few days? I need to meet with Melissa, start looking for a rental. Handle some things without them seeing." "Of course." She squeezed my hand. "Take as long as you need." I drove back to Portland that afternoon. The house was empty when I got there. Emily's car still in the shop, her gone somewhere. Probably begging a ride from one of her boyfriends. I went to the office I'd set up in the spare bedroom. The computer was still on, still showing the Uber account I'd been manipulating the night before. I stared at the screen. Then I opened a new tab and logged into our shared Lyft account. Because of course we had a Lyft account too. The ride history loaded. My stomach dropped. 63 rides in the past 4 months. Different drivers, different times, but the same destinations. Devin's apartment building, Danny's address, the mystery location on NW 23rd, and new addresses I hadn't seen before. A hotel downtown, the Sentinel. She'd taken Lyft there 11 times, an address in Lake Oswego I didn't recognize, a wine bar in the Pearl District. I sat back, feeling sick. The Uber rides were just part of it. She'd been using Lyft when she maxed out the Uber drivers she trusted, rotating between apps, between drivers, between men. How long had this been going on? Really going on? I started taking screenshots. Every ride, every address, every timestamp. The dates told a story. Afternoon rides when she said she was at yoga. Evening rides when I was working late. Weekend rides when I had the kids. A pattern of deception so thorough it must have taken planning. Effort. She'd built an entire secret life, complete with backup transportation apps and multiple affair partners. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Gerald, the Uber driver. I heard what happened with the account. Just wanted to say good luck, man. You deserve better." I stared at the message. A stranger, someone who'd driven my wife to cheat on me, showing more decency than she had. I typed back, "Thanks. I appreciate you being straight with me." His response came quickly. "One more thing. I don't know if it matters, but there's another driver she used a lot. Guy named Keith. He works mainly Lyft now. Might be worth talking to him." "How do I find him?" "I'll ask around. Get you his number." I set the phone down and went back to the computer. Opened a new document and started organizing everything. Uber rides, Lyft rides, dates, times, addresses, Gerald's testimony, the burner phone photos. Evidence. Cold, hard, documented evidence of systematic betrayal. My phone buzzed again. Emily. "We need to talk about the kids." I deleted it without responding. She tried again. "Jake, please. I know you're angry, but they need their mother." Another deletion. "You can't keep them from me." I typed back, "Talk to my lawyer." Then I blocked her number. The house was quiet, just me and the computer screen and the growing file of evidence. Outside, the sun was setting. Another day ending. Another day closer to the end of this marriage. My phone buzzed one more time. Gerald. Keith's number, 503-555-0147. He said he'll talk to you. Good guy. I saved the contact, added it to my growing list of things to do. Tomorrow I'd call Keith. Tonight I'd finish documenting everything, and then I'd start planning the next move. Because if Emily thought a suspended Uber account was revenge, she had no idea what was coming. Keith met me at a diner off I-5, halfway between Portland and Eugene. He was younger than Gerald, maybe 40, with tired eyes and calloused hands that suggested Lyft wasn't his only job. Gerald said you needed to talk, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. I showed him Emily's photo. His expression darkened immediately. Yeah, I know her. He flagged down the waitress, ordered coffee. Drove her maybe 20 times. Always good tips. Always friendly. Friendly how? He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I see a lot in this job. People having affairs, people doing drugs, people making mistakes. I don't judge. But your wife? He shook his head. She talked about you sometimes. Said you were a good father. Said the kids loved you. Then she'd have me drop her at some guy's place and I'd pick her up hours later. Which guy's place? Different ones. The yoga instructor on Burnside. Some apartment in Lake Oswego. She'd stay there all afternoon. And there was this hotel downtown, the Sentinel. She'd go there Thursdays, always around 2. The Sentinel. The hotel I'd seen in the Lyft records. Did you ever see who she was meeting there? Keith took a sip of his coffee. Once. Older guy, maybe 50. Nice suit. Wedding ring. He paused. She kissed him in the lobby, not like a friend. The diner felt too hot suddenly. When was this? Last month. April something. 4 men. At least 4 that I could document. Devin, Danny, the mystery person with the burner phone, and now this married man at the Sentinel. Keith pulled out his phone. I keep trip logs too, for taxes. You want copies? Please. He forwarded them while we sat there. 63 rides, all documented with dates, times, pickup and drop-off locations. More evidence. More proof of the double life she'd been living. What are you going to do? Keith asked. Win custody of my kids, I said. Make sure they don't grow up thinking this is normal. He nodded slowly. For what it's worth, those times she talked about them, your kids, she did seem to love them. Just not enough to stop? Yeah, he finished his coffee. Good luck, man. Melissa's office had that new paint smell that suggested recent renovation. She sat across from me, spreading documents across her desk like a poker player revealing a winning hand. This is substantial, she said, reviewing the evidence. The Uber records, the Lyft records, driver testimony, the burner phone. Oregon's a no-fault state for divorce, but for custody? She looked up. This establishes a clear pattern of deception and absence. A parent who prioritized affairs over childcare. Can we win primary custody? I'd say we have a strong case, especially with your work schedule flexibility and your mother's involvement. She made notes on her legal pad. Emily's attorney will argue she's the primary caregiver, but these records show she was absent during claimed caregiving time. That's significant. What about the house? Community property. It'll be sold and split 50-50 unless one of you buys out the other. She paused. Can you afford to buy her out? I thought about the mortgage, the equity we'd built, the market value, not without draining the kids' college funds. Then we let it sell. You'll each walk away with your share. The house we'd chosen together. The backyard where Nathan took his first steps. Olivia's bedroom with the stars we'd painted on the ceiling. All of it gone. Okay, I said. Melissa walked me through the timeline. Filing would take 2 weeks. Temporary custody arrangements would be established within 30 days. The divorce itself could take 6 months to a year. One more thing, she said as I stood to leave. Emily's attorney will likely try to paint you as controlling. The Uber account manipulation, blocking her number, taking the kids without notice. Be prepared for that. I documented everything. Dated, timestamped. Good. Keep doing that. Every interaction, every exchange, every decision about the kids. Document it all. The divorce took 9 months. Emily fought for primary custody but couldn't explain the Uber records, the Lyft trips, the multiple affairs. Her attorney tried to argue that my surveillance of her transportation was controlling behavior, but Melissa countered with the simple fact that I'd been reviewing our shared family account, something I had every legal right to do. The judge wasn't impressed with Emily's choices. I got primary custody. Emily got every other weekend and alternating holidays. The house sold in 2 months. We split the proceeds. I found a 3-bedroom rental in a good school district, close enough to my mother that she could help with pickups and after-school care. Devin stopped teaching at the yoga studio. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved to Seattle, wanting distance from the whole mess. Danny apparently never existed. The South Waterfront address belonged to a woman Emily had been seeing. Another lie. Another layer of deception I'd never fully unravel. I never did find out who owned the burner phone. Some mysteries stay buried. 2 years later, I stood in Olivia's new bedroom. Our rental had turned into a purchase, helping her hang posters. She was 9 now, gap-toothed smile gone, replaced by permanent teeth and a growing independence. "Dad?" she asked, smoothing down a poster of some boy band I didn't recognize. "Why doesn't Mom come around more?" It was the question I'd been dreading, the one I'd prepared answers for but never felt ready to give. "Your mom loves you," I said carefully. "She's just working through some things." "Is it because of the divorce?" "Partly." Olivia was quiet for a moment, then said, "Jessie's parents are divorced. Her dad comes to every soccer game." Emily had missed the last 4 games. Claimed work conflicts, prior commitments, vague excuses that the kids were starting to see through. "Everyone's different," I said. "Your mom shows love in her own way." It was a lie. A kind one, but still a lie. The truth was that Emily had moved to Seattle 6 months ago, chasing some new relationship, some new promise of happiness. She called the kids every Sunday, sent birthday presents, showed up for major holidays. But she wasn't present. Not really. "I'm glad we live with you," Olivia said quietly. I hugged her, feeling the weight of single parenthood and broken promises and the responsibility of being enough for 2 people. "Me too, sweetheart." Nathan adjusted better than Olivia. At 7, he accepted the new normal with the resilience of childhood. He had his room, his toys, his routines. Grandma picked him up from school Tuesdays and Thursdays. I coached his baseball team on weekends. Life found a rhythm. I dated occasionally, awkward coffee meetings arranged by well-meaning friends, a few second dates that fizzled into nothing. The trust wasn't there anymore. The ability to take people at face value. Maybe it would come back. Maybe it wouldn't. My mother said I was too guarded now, that I needed to let people in. But I'd let Emily in, completely, and she'd hollowed out that trust until nothing remained but evidence logs and lawyer fees. Some lessons you only learn once. 3 years after finding the burner phone, I got a message from Gerald. He'd retired from driving, moved to Arizona with his wife. 35 years of marriage now. "Just wanted to check in," he wrote. "See how you and the kids are doing." I sent him a photo. Me and Olivia and Nathan at the coast, building a sandcastle. The same beach where I'd proposed to Emily a lifetime ago. "We're good," I wrote back. "Really good." And we were. The house was smaller, the budget tighter, the future uncertain in ways I'd never planned for. But the kids were happy, stable. They did their homework at the kitchen table while I made dinner. We watched movies on Friday nights. We built routines and traditions that belonged to us. No lies, no burner phones, no secret lives. Just the three of us, figuring it out. I learned something in those years after everything fell apart. Betrayal doesn't just break trust in one person. It breaks your faith in your own judgment. Makes you question every decision, every instinct, every moment you thought you understood what was happening. Emily had been a stranger living in my house, sleeping in my bed, raising my children, and I'd never seen it. That was the real damage. Not the affairs or the lies, but the realization that I'd been so thoroughly fooled. Recovery meant learning to trust myself again. To believe that I could read situations, understand people, make sound choices. It meant accepting that some things can't be predicted or prevented, that you can do everything right and still end up with everything wrong. But it also meant understanding what I could control, how I showed up for my kids, how I rebuilt our lives, how I chose to move forward. Emily made her choices. I made mine. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered. On Olivia's 10th birthday, Emily called to say she couldn't make the party. Work thing. Unavoidable. Olivia took it better than I expected. Shrugged, said, "Okay," and went back to decorating cupcakes with her friends. Later that night, after the guests left and Nathan was asleep, she asked me the question I'd been waiting for. Did Mom ever really love us? I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. Yes, she does love you. But sometimes people love in ways that aren't enough, that don't show up when it matters. Like missing birthdays? Like missing birthdays. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm glad I have you, Dad. I'm glad I have you too." She fell asleep holding my hand, and I sat there in the dark, thinking about trust and betrayal and the strange mathematics of love. Emily had wanted freedom, excitement, to feel alive. And she'd gotten it, I supposed, at the cost of everything else. I had the kids, the quiet evenings, the ordinary moments that built a life. Different choices, different outcomes. I knew which one I'd choose again. The final papers came 5 years after I found the burner phone. Official dissolution of marriage. Legal end to something that had ended long before. I filed them away in a box marked legal documents and took the kids to the zoo. We saw the elephants, ate overpriced ice cream, rode the train around the park. Normal things. Good things. The things that mattered. And somewhere in Seattle, Emily was living whatever life she'd built from the wreckage. I didn't know the details, didn't want to. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. And I was teaching my kids the most important lesson I'd learned. That integrity isn't about never making mistakes. It's about showing up, being present, choosing the people you love over the things you want. Every single day. No burner phones, no secret lives, no lies. Just love. Real, imperfect, present love. That was enough. That would always be enough.